when I'm planning to go out of state, I want to look at what kind of hunting I'm going to be doing. Obviously, we're talking about waterfowl. So am I field hunting? Am I river hunting? Am I hunting in a marsh similar to like kind of what we hunt in and here in the grasslands? Is it shallow water? Is it deep water?
Freelance duck hunting can be tricky. You almost feel like you got to take everything in the kitchen sink, because the last thing I want to do is get somewhere out of state and realize I don't have this.
Is there going to be snow? Is there going to be a current from rivers? So that all that affects your gear.
Internet's a great resource. You could look at different forums where people may be shooting birds, and you can see like, okay, there's predominantly mallards.
The best thing to do is just take everything in the kitchen sink if it's possible. That way you're prepared for every scenario and you can just be safe.
And I always like to match my decoys to what's in an area. I didn't always do that before. I was like, oh, mallard decoys, and pintail decoys. I'd mix them together. But it's important when you go to a place that I think, to match the hatch, as they call it.
What type of decoys you're taking, how many, your rigging setup on your decoys, whether you're taking floaters or field decoys. So you really want to get the best understanding of the area you're going to before you go.
The last thing you want to do is show up to hunt, scout the birds, and then realize like, oh man, we don't have this. We didn't bring this.
In that scenario, look at what you want to target predominantly and take predominantly that type of decoy.
I don't have, 5 different pairs of waders, so I'm only bringing the one set that I have. But with that, I don't like to be cold. I can get cold pretty easily, so I bring plenty of layers. So I kind of basically have a plan of this is going to be my go-to, but if it gets colder than that, I have something to, put another layer on, so I'm not going to freeze, my hiney off out there in the duck pond, because that can be actually a big distraction.
We've been in some bad situations where we were told not to bring waders, and then we were hosed.
You may not know what the weather conditions are. Some areas the weather could change overnight, within the day, within the hour.
And it could affect shooting, calling, just being a better hunter. If you're uncomfortable, you're not going to be hunting as hard or as good as you possibly could if you were comfortable.
Where you have, your rain gear, camouflage, and then be able to layer, because if you just take a big bulky jacket and you're like, oh, it's going to be cold, but then in the middle of the afternoon you're sweated to death, you peel that thing off, and I think layering systems is a good option for if you're going to go out of state.
You don't want to be wet and cold all day long trying to hunt. That's just going to tire you out if you're on a long trip hunting day after day.
And so I think having some type of a dry bag that you could put your gear in when you're out there, that's sealable, that's waterproof, is a good idea. What could be 5 stars in Beverly Hills could be different than 5 stars in Back Scratch, Indiana, or wherever it's at, so you don't know what it's like, right?
Me personally, I really like to feel comfortable sleeping in the sheets, so
thank God for the internet. Without the internet, you probably have to drive around for a while.
Worth it to me to spend an extra $20 a night to feel safe to sleep in those sheets.
And just look at the outside of the building. It's like, does that look clean? Can we go in there and eat?
I like to get on like Kayak, and it's an app you can get on, and you can look at the hotels. You see the ratings, you see the cleanliness, like what it's rated, if it's 2 stars, 3 stars, 5 stars. If you're on a budget, obviously you're going to try to pick the cheapest place you can pick.
Yeah, look at the ratings. Talon was our guy that scouted everything out, and he made some good choices.
And you see ratings, and that helps, and we ate some killer places.
Not that I need to eat excessively. I should have found something like Fresh Choice or something like that. But man, the rooms were so clean. I think it was called My Place or something like that. The rooms were clean. They had full kitchen in there, refrigerator. And that was great because we had a couple nice birds that I was going to mount. And so we were able to freeze those birds.
Absolutely need water, for one.
I keep multiple duck calls, depending on the area though. Like if we're going to areas just mallards, I'm only have a mallard call probably on me. Maybe a pintail whistle. If I'm going somewhere where there's gabballs, I'll know that from scouting. So I'll have multiple calls in there.
So my blind bag, it's kind of like a woman's purse. You know, you need everything. So I always want to have a flashlight. Sometimes I get in my enthusiasm for duck hunting, I'll stay out there all day long, and you're walking back, and typically I know the refuge, but if I'm hunting someplace I've never been before, it's always good to have a headlamp.
Obviously all your essentials: ammo, duck calls, possibly a glove if I'm in really cold weather.
I have a finisher. I like to be able to finish the birds cleanly, especially if it's something I want to mount.
It probably wouldn't be a bad idea to have some kind of first aid kit when you go out, just in case something happens. You never know.
Most likely a NOS or a Mountain Dew. It's going to be in there. It's going to find its way in there somehow.
Obviously I have my camera gear. Keep that stuff in there, especially if you want to take pictures. People have their phones, keep the memory. It's always great to have that. I would say a big thing is to have a little bit tripod, because if all you and your buddies, you don't want someone getting stuck not being in the picture. So little stuff like that's just nice to have to save the memory.
My cell phone, gotta have that in case I gotta call my wife and tell them I gotta come home anytime soon, and make sure it's charged. It's went dead a few times, got in trouble for that.
Possibly face paint, mask, whichever one I'm going to use. I actually started using a Sitka shirt that has a built-in mask. I used that a lot last year, almost every hunt. I really love that thing.
Duck strap. I always keep a duck strap in there and put all the birds on.
Gotta always have a Mountain Dew in there.
Like I said, just different things for different situations.
And then for me, you know, having a dog, working Rocky, I always keep the e-collar in there. I did make a mistake one time in the past for not bringing it because he was so disciplined and he wouldn't break. And so I trusted him a little too much, and he started breaking on one of our trips out of state, and I didn't have my e-collar with me. So if you have a dog, I would say definitely keep stuff for your dog in hand.
And just a few little snacks, you know, things that make sure that you burn a lot of calories when you're running across the duck pond. So you got to be able to replenish and restore those calories. It can be hot, so Gatorade may not be bad. Little Red Bull to wash it down. So those are all good things.
And it never hurts to bring a handful of dog food for your dog, because if you're going to be out there all day, he needs some energy just like we do, you know, to stay ready in the field.